All right, we'll start off where everyone else does. As far as earliest childhood memory, what are we getting into?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lightbulb. I really wanted to share a childhood memory that I have actually shared publicly on social media. And my earliest childhood memory, sorry to start out dark, but
Hey, hey,
I
here we
was,
are.
here we are. I was sexually assaulted as a child,
Hmm.
and I won't get deeply into it, but ultimately it has completely shaped my entire adulthood and
Hmm.
what I've decided to take a stance against
Yeah.
and really has followed me through so much of my life and made me question a lot identity, mental health, things like that growing up. But it led me to be an activist for so many of my friends
Hmm.
and so many younger girls that looked up to me that confided in me in things, and they didn't even know that that happened to me as a child. And as a result, I now have the courage to run for Congress.
Hmm.
And so that is my earliest childhood memory that I have, aside from, family
Yeah.
dinners and being a family and things like that.
So, not to get into the nitty-gritty of any of that stuff, what we have decided for my wife and ourselves with our kids, we're not doing any sleepovers. If so, we're going to be there. We have like two family members that we trust them spending time with in a group of people. But other than that, we're just not risking it. And it seems like in this day of age, like you said, a lot of it seemed to have happened to a lot of people.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe the statistic, and you'll have to look this up to look at the
Hmm.
exact number when you post it, of course, but I think it's somewhere like 92% of child sexual assault cases are from somebody that the child knows personally, whether it's a family member, a
Yeah.
coach, a friend's parent, or older sibling, or even a cousin or older step sibling.
Hmm.
Um, it's really sad, but yeah, it was somebody that I knew and a
Hmm.
friend's dad and somebody that my parents trusted me to be home with or stay over at
Right.
the kid's house and things like that. So it um it is definitely something that I don't think any parent is prepared for, and I'm so grateful to parent in this age of technology
Hmm.
because I've been able to see that darkness and know
Yeah.
that, like, okay, I'm going to keep it as far away from him
Yeah.
as possible. Especially raising a little boy, like those go so undetected, underreported. Assault cases, that
Right.
is against boys, just um, stigmatizing it and things like that. So yeah, it is definitely a dark, dark industry, and a sickness for
Hmm.
many people.
My last opinion on it, then we'll move into hopefully some different things. But generally, when you're talking to other people about it, their response is, "Oh, I never would have thought that." Because that's the only response you can have. If you say, "Oh, like I kind of did see this," or like no one is ever going to be admitting fault where like you get an inkling, you get a thought, they do something weird, something's a little off, but I think that stops the conversation because no one's ever going to admit that they put their kids in harm's way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which I think is there's everyone takes a decision and then runs it through what they think their best option was. They thought that was the best option, and it turns out it wasn't, and that's extremely tough.
And I just, I want to create that completely transparent and like honest relationship with my son one day
Yeah.
and future children as well to be able to confide in me in that because I don't think anyone's like I don't blame my parents for that
Mhm.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And things were much different during their generation, like in terms of just even being able to play out in the street
Right.
till the lights came on. Um, and I got to experience like a little briefness of that. But of
Mhm.
course, with technology, so much more came to light that no, we probably shouldn't be letting our
Oh,
kids
okay.
play
So I,
unattended.
I've been having a lot of people on this podcast, and I've been trying to determine when this time was, because most of the people I have on, they're like, "Yeah, I was outside all the time." How old were you when it changed?
Ah, gosh, I mean, young, very young,
Okay.
probably like 7 or 8, maybe.
Okay.
I was born
And
in
how old are you now?
97. I'm 29.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I'm not that much older, but well, we'll take it. We'll take it. So 7 and 8 rolls around, and you're like, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna go hang out with Cheryl," and your parents are like, ah. Like, what was the scenario? What was the conversation?
Well, from my parents, like hanging out with kids, I grew up on a block,
Okay.
so the inner square was like surrounded by houses. There was an alleyway in the middle, and then around the outside, there was houses as well,
Hmm.
and completely like closed off from outside streets and things like
Nice.
that. Yeah, so down the block was a group of friends, like at the cul-de-sac on the corner, and yeah, I don't know, like it was never. I don't remember this shift
Yeah.
necessarily, like this dramatic shift. And I don't know if it was necessarily because of like sports picking up and me getting older and being more into sports at nighttime and things like that. Um, but I do remember as I got older, like going to friends' houses and things like that, my mom was always like, who are the parents? Like, I need to talk to them on the phone. Like, I need to meet them. And I remember just being so annoyed with that as a kid growing up. And now
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm gonna be just like you. I'm gonna be worse.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So what were you getting into with friends? Were you playing sports, just riding around on bikes?
Yeah.
What was going on?
Yeah, definitely just on bikes, skateboards, playing in the dirt, trees, whatever. I don't like, we were never going into each other's houses,
Okay.
really, or anything like that. It was just always out on the street, playing with chalk, bubbles, whatever, things like
And
that.
what was the closest, or what did you get in the trouble for the most?
Uh, at that age,
Or in middle
gosh.
school or something?
Yeah, mm, I I don't remember honestly. Like in high school, sneaking out.
Okay.
I do remember high school, honestly, like sneaking out. Yeah, that would probably be the biggest one because I want to go hang out with friends and there's no parent there for my mom to meet. So,
Very true. I remember one time, I think it was middle school with my buddy. We had a snow day, and we were just throwing snowballs like at the back of cars or like hitting the back of them or whatever it was, just because like we wanted to be up to some shenanigans, but nothing too
mm,
bad. And then we ended up getting a little too aggressive and we threw it through some guy's window
oh my
and hit
gosh.
him. And we ran upstairs so fast. This guy came knocking on the front door, and the dad that we were there with stood his ground, but he came up and just yelled at us. And it was like
Wow.
100%. Yeah, no, that was on us. But thanks for not letting that guy beat us up. Like we
Yeah,
really
seriously.
appreciate that.
Some parents would probably.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, depending on what they think the best way to learn the lesson was,
Mm,
I still remember he stormed through. It wasn't a door. It was interesting. They didn't have doors on their rooms, but it was those like beads that you had to go through. So it's like we couldn't hide or anything. It was just like, hey, it's like shoot. So when you're heading into high school, are you playing a bunch of sports? Do you really like school? Or are we mainly hanging out with friends?
So, my freshman year of high school, we actually moved towns. So, I
Okay.
grew up in Central California in
Oh, hey.
Modesto. Yeah. And it's a valley, like super flat, big town, I think, probably over 350,000 people. Like, there are like 12 schools in
That's
the
nuts.
district. Yeah, it was big. It was big. Um, and yeah, I we ended up moving north. My parents really, I mean, my dad grew up probably 25, 30 minutes from there. My mom grew up in Southern California and moved around a lot growing
Yeah.
up. And they just wanted to change. They wanted something better for us, better community, better environment. And so, freshman year of high school, my sister's senior year, my dad got a job teaching mechanics up north about 3 hours in Nevada County. And yeah, super, super small town. Gosh, I want to say the population's probably around like 30 to 50,000 of
Hmm.
the whole county and two high schools. Everybody there like knew each other.
Yeah.
Like kindergarten, middle school, if you like you knew
Hmm.
everybody that you were going to be going to high school with. So yeah, my mom and dad were really big, like pretty strict on doing a sport while
Hmm.
in school. So I had only one option really to try out for when we moved up there, which was water polo. Played water polo my
That's
freshman year.
fantastic.
Yeah, I never did any water sports growing up. I did track in middle school and then competitive gymnastics as well growing up, like club
Hmm.
sport, and then just like high school or middle school track, nothing club or anything like that. Um, so I was like, well, I can try out for water polo, and I made the team. And I played water polo my freshman year, and I ended up getting back into gymnastics at the end of that year as well, and still running track. I did do track in the spring. And yeah, I was always in sports growing up. I was an
Hmm.
athlete my whole life, and literally like probably since like 3 or 4 years old, I was in gymnastics.
How
And
for
then,
gymnastics, I feel like it's so incredibly tough because they want your body to kind of stop growing at 13 or
I'm
14
tall.
because that's what the Russians said this is the best way to do it. And it's only
Hmm.
taken the US 30 to 40 years to figure out that's not maybe the best idea. But how would you deal with those types of coaches? Because I feel like they're just now transitioning to treating like girls like humans again.
Hmm.
So what was that experience for you?
I don't know if they are yet. We're getting there. But we're getting there.
No, I've had two coaches on, and I have some coaches that are friends. They're like, when I was growing up, like I am not doing that to my kids, and so like
Hmm.
see there seems to be a change, but if you go down to Southern football, I don't think that's changing for a long time. So it's probably different everywhere still.
Yeah. I would say gymnastics is probably one of the most toxic coaching environments. I think there are a select few of gymnastics coaches
Yeah,
that really focus on mindset and cultivating more than someone's athletic capabilities, which I think is the most important thing of
yeah,
athletics is teaching a an athlete mindset,
hmm,
because they're going to be done playing that sport one day. And
yeah,
if they don't leave with any sort of discipline or accountability or hard work ingrained in them, and then it's like the most important resilience in our day and age,
yeah.
um, they're going to just they're going to be set up for failure
Well, it
essentially.
is so interesting because culturally, I don't know if your school did this, but every year you would go to like the meeting for high school or middle school, and they'd be like, "Oh, only 0.1% of you guys are going to make it to college, and then even
Yep.
less are going to go pro." And they're
Hmm.
like, focus on like the education, but it's 60 to 70% of the kids are there playing sports. So like what are we supposed to do? Like they provide an experience where we still enjoy sports. Where in like other
Yeah.
countries, they're like, hey, let's play sports for fun, for longevity, and continue
Hmm.
doing these things. And the cream will always rise to the top instead of just like pressure, pressure, pressure. But
Yeah.
it's just I'm not necessarily on a kick of trying to bring sports back to the world or America, but I'd like it just to be fun again. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. I really think in America that like okay, sports are my Roman Empire.
Yeah.
because like literally it's a coliseum. And I think we just going to college even to play sports, I think that's how we've gotten so many like everyday athletes, not, or sorry, college students, not
Mhm.
athletes, to go so in debt because most of these college campuses are so expensive because they have massive stadiums that they're building. They have all these football games and some soccer games, things like that, that they're like, the bills keep going up and up and up just to fund these college football,
Yeah.
basically. Um, and you're right, like such a few percentage of high school athletes will go on to even go to college, period.
Hmm.
Um, and then be college athletes. I was a college athlete and I was so grateful that for that experience of being a college athlete, but it is also something that's so much pressure from day one because you have the pressure of grades, keeping up with grades, keeping your scholarship
Hmm.
so that you can keep going to school, essentially. A lot of
Yeah.
kids that are there on scholarship would not be able to pay for it, even with student loans, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, so just having that opportunity, I was so grateful for, especially because like moving freshman year, I didn't necessarily, I wasn't very engaged in school
Hmm.
because I just wasn't really like invested into by teachers and I was pretty checked out mentally. Like I didn't really want to be there. I miss my friends.
Yeah.
My church, I went to the same church for like that 14 years growing up, born and raised in it. Same with my older siblings. I'm the youngest of four.
Hmm.
And so that was like a really big shift. Um, and so I started wrestling my senior year of high school. Yep. And
How does that introduction happen?
so I was originally going to go into the military. I was going to go into the Marines.
Okay.
A lot of times, especially at our school, we see military going to schools with lower graduation rates or kids who are not going to go to college. Our town is not a college town. Like
Yeah.
it's just middle of the Sierra Nevadas, a mining town, a lot of blue collar people, a lot of kids I went to school with, like a very high percentage of them did not go to college, graduate college, or finish a college degree whatsoever, even a 2 year. Um, and so we do see like military showing up in those areas more
Yeah.
often just for another career path. And I was going to go into the Marines because I was like, my parents pushed college heavily, and I was like, there's no way I have the grades for college. I don't know what I want to do with my career. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what I want to do with my life. Um, and so, yeah, I was literally going to sign the papers for the Marines. The following weekend, I went to my first tournament and I got third place at it, which in California, girls wrestling had been around, I want to say probably for already like 6 or 7 years. So it was pretty
Really?
established there. Yeah, it's a lot more progressive, especially like
I'll give him that.
on on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, especially. I
Hmm.
know it's not West Coast, but it's West.
Yeah.
Um, and then like New York, obviously, a lot of the more progressive states have it. And Georgia does now. All 50 states have
Yeah.
girls wrestling now
So,
as
but
a
who
sport.
who who invited you? Were you just walking in the hallway? Were you like, wow,
So
how did the coach find you?
he did not find me. So, and he's a whole nother story. But my sister wrestled in high
Okay.
school. My brother wrestled for 4 years. My dad was a wrestler. My uncle was a
Oh, so
wrestler.
you've been
So
wrestling.
yes,
Gotcha.
I wanted to wrestle really badly in like seventh or eighth grade. And my dad, even senior year, he's like, no, like you're not allowed to wrestle. He didn't know girls wrestling was a thing either. So he didn't
Yeah.
want me wrestling with the guys. And then again, with like my being checked out of
Right.
school and education, he's just like, he understood the commitment to it as well. Um, and I was actually doing competitive gymnastics and cheerleading at the time too. So he's like, how are you going to balance these two?
Jacked.
Yeah. He's like, how are you going to balance these two? So he's like, don't go. Like, you're going to be grounded. I was like, I'm going. So I went to wrestling practice. I went to the first week, and I just loved it. Like
Yeah.
the coach was super disciplined, super strict, and like I needed that. I needed that discipline and structure. Like gymnastics, it was club, so it was like you were responsible for yourself essentially, and I hadn't really built or been trained those skills aside from like what my parents taught me growing
Yeah.
up, but I was a teenager not wanting to grab those skills from my parents yet, um, or apply them necessarily. And so, yeah, I went to wrestling my first week, and then my first tournament, I got third place at, and my wrestling coach was like, "Do not sign those papers. Like, we can get you a scholarship wrestling." I was like, "What? Like scholarship?" He's like, "Yeah, you can go to college with wrestling." I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?" Like at the time, there was literally only probably like 30 to 40 schools with girls wrestling in college, women's wrestling in college. Now it's a D1 sport. Like
Okay.
it's yeah, like they 6 years ago, I believe, entered into the NCAA
Okay.
as a D1. Iowa Hawkeyes have it, a few other D1 schools as well. And yeah, I wrestled at a community college for two
Okay.
years, and then I got recruited out to Georgia at Emmanuel University to wrestle on their team here in Georgia.
That's
And my first
exciting.
time, yeah, it was my first, well, I mean, it was Franklin Springs, Georgia. I was driving out from the West Coast, flying out. We fly into Atlanta. We're driving out. I don't, where do you stay?
I'm just outside Chicago.
Okay. So have you been to Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay. So Atlanta's cool. You start and the rest of Georgia's cool too. I do like Georgia, but once you start getting out into the sticks, like, you
I've
start
traveled
like
a fair
there's
amount, and there's always a city, but then when there's no more city, we've got
yeah.
problems. Then you start
Yeah.
seeing movies, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't. That's not a movie that I want to be watching right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even like being in a very smaller, more country town, like I don't remember seeing like many, if at all, like Confederate flags. Like I hadn't even seen them like
Mhm. Right.
around, hanging up, things like that. And oh my gosh, left and right, like seeing them, like yeah, we just got further and further out into the middle of like there's a lot of chicken farms out there. And my dad's like, we can turn around, we can go back. I was like, I already accepted the scholarship. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it ended out working out for the best. I got my bachelor's there, graduated during COVID, met my husband there, and my best friend in the entire world as well. Met her there. She was on the wrestling team, and she's actually from Southern California. And I went to school with her cousin in Oregon. It was so weird. It was like the way we got brought together, and she was my maid of honor. And yeah, met my husband, got my bachelor's there, and then graduated during COVID and went back to California. I managed a restaurant there seasonally, and then managed it during COVID. Oh my
I feel
gosh.
like managing a restaurant, people say there's requirements. I think working a service job, like as a waiter or just like at the front of McDonald's, but I feel like managing a restaurant, you learn a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, working with others in restaurant industry is
Now,
I admire
the
restaurant
tough
industry so
thing,
much.
the tough thing that people don't realize about, I may have dated some women that they call it the industry. Um, it's fast money for the most part, but it is also a lifestyle that a select amount of people will live. And it's
Hmm.
not necessarily the 9 to 5, my life is consistent type of situation. Now, without being rude, um, that's the best explanation that I can give.
No, it's so true. I going to school for business and working at that restaurant for about 5 years. I wanted to buy it from the owner, and he was ready to sell. And then COVID happened,
That'll get you.
and
And you
yeah, I was like, I never want to own a restaurant.
were you in California at the time?
Yeah, so I
Hey.
graduated, went back. I graduated in November of 2019, and that was when like China was on lockdown,
Yeah.
basically. I don't think it actually really hit hard in the States yet
Yeah.
until I want to say like April or May of 2020.
Hmm.
Um, I think, right? Pretty sure. I don't know. It's all a blur.
I'd have to go look and when our book club started because it was right.
Okay. Yeah.
It was right around that
So,
time.
yeah, and I just remember like restrictions getting heavier and heavier. Like our county wanted us to um like vaccine check every single customer that came in if they were going to be eating in. Like you could only have so many people in your restaurant and like my boss at the time before COVID was very democratic,
Yeah.
very like more left leaning. And this man became a full like conservative. He's like, what is this state doing? Like, I
I was
remember,
I was gonna try during this the path of your life figure out from being in California and then what changed you a little bit. And I think it was a quick adjustment.
yeah, well, then, so my husband were and I were dating at the
Mm.
time. We were long distance, didn't really know what we were doing with our relationship. We were like, oh, we want to stay together because he was still in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we would fly back and forth to see each other. And I remember flying out to Georgia from California during COVID, and I was like, you guys are free down here. Oh
What
my
is
gosh. You
this?
don't have to wear your mask into the grocery store. He's like, what do you mean have to? Like, outskirts, he's on the outskirts of Atlanta, so I'm sure like
Yeah.
in Atlanta was different, but he was more, we're more in like urban area, a little more
Hmm.
and suburban. And so yeah, that was liberating for me just to like see that a lot of small businesses actually didn't were doing better in Georgia
Yeah.
during COVID because there was less restrictions on them. And but yeah, I still was like, I do not, I want to get out of the restaurant industry. Like this is not stable whatsoever. And that was a big reason was the stability of it. Like, yeah, for like an everyday server and stuff, yeah, obviously it's not a stable job whatsoever unless it's a bigger corporate
Yeah.
franchise or something like that. Um,
Or if you're in another
but
country, those servers seem to be doing very well.
they do. So actually, it's interesting you say that. I studied overseas in Germany, and education is free there,
Hmm.
unless you go to a private institution, then they charge for that. Or if you're doing more of like a advanced
Yeah.
route, like legal, medical, things like that. But they have degrees for tourism, they have
Hmm.
degrees for serving, hospitality, restaurant service. So they actually go and get an education in serving and customer service. They do not, it is not customary to tip there whatsoever. Like, it,
Well,
yeah,
whenever we would go to England or wherever we're going and we would try to tip, they're like, "Oh, no, no, no." And we're like, "We're trying to give you money." They're like, "No, we're good. We appreciate it. Like, keep your money." I'm like, "I am so confused."
yeah, yeah. So, and they are paid so much better there as well for those jobs,
Yeah.
and they're not working for a tip. They're doing their job. They're nice. They're serving. They're
Yeah.
bringing the food to the table. Your glasses, well, if they have glasses of water, because most places you buy a bottle of water
Yeah,
over
and there's
there.
probably not going to be ice in there. It's probably going to be warm
No.
water.
Yeah, it's gonna be warm. And you're not gonna have any AC. But we love America. That's
Yeah.
why we love America.
Pros and
Best
cons.
country. Yes. Um, but the quality of life is much better for servers in a lot of other countries that are like more developed
Yes.
countries. And yeah, I do find that interesting here in the States, like especially at restaurants. It's like the consumer foots the pays the wages
Yeah.
of the server essentially. And I remember in California, there's a minimum wage there.
Yeah.
It was when I was in high school, I believe it was like 10.50, and for every year it increased by 50 cents, I believe, 25 or 50
Okay.
cents until it got to 15. And that's where it stopped at 15. And so there it's $15 an hour. And yeah, some small businesses didn't survive that. We saw bigger corporations letting people go. I mean, jobs are everywhere.
Hmm.
There is a shortage of people who are willing to show up to jobs and do them. There are jobs everywhere. Anybody can go find a job. Um, and I think there will always be jobs, and there will always be jobs created. I don't think, oh, I've gotten into some discussions with some
Well,
conservatives about,
I think as long as any of these topics can go expansive and it can be hours.
hmm
But if you
yeah,
clarify, I'm working on my debate abilities or just communication. If you can define the point, then
hmm
I think it would be a lot easier to have a conversation because like
yeah,
I could throw out a bunch of different stats, but like if we're not talking
hmm
about the same thing, it doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah,
So I will offer I will offer a question. Do you think that wages have increased the same amount that productivity has increased? Let's just say since the 1980s when the minimum wage could afford a house at 5 to 7 times. Now, we can go over the housing numbers. They've gotten bigger. Yes, things have changed, but it seems like wages have not followed productivity and wealth. Um,
yeah. So the federal minimum wage is 7.25 an
mhm.
hour.
Yeah.
There's not a single state that anyone can survive off that income for 40 hours a week if they're working
Mhm.
40 hours a week. If we see any person working 7.25 and supporting even just one child by themselves, like let's take a single mom, for
Mhm.
example, she's working three to at least probably two to three jobs
Yeah.
at probably 7.25 an hour. For what I think, like while we were on the topic of restaurant service, this is where it gets a lot more disgraceful to be a developed country. I believe it's roughly like 2.15 an hour that tipped employees are required to be
Right.
paid. If they make even $1 more in tips, they do not get what their hourly rate was.
Right.
That, I mean, I don't care if somebody's $16 or 16 years old and has their first job, or they're
Hmm.
$45 and working at Waffle House, like, or 45 years old and working at Waffle House still. That's completely unacceptable in a country where we are so developed. And we see it at restaurants that are actually doing pretty well. I mean, it's, and then you get into, I got into an not, well, yeah, it was an argument with a server once because we sat down, a group of us college students. I was a coach at the time. I was getting my master's degree at Life University. Went to a restaurant up there and at a diner, and there was six of us at the table, and they charged, I believe, 20%. Yes, and they put it
I'll
at the
give you 20. Just let me give you 20.
well, and I was gonna pay cash. I was gonna put that in your pocket. I'm not gonna give it to the restaurant, which I did end up paying cash. But this server was so mad because I told all the other girls at the table were like college students. They were not they I was working, I was also getting my master's and coaching them. They were my athletes.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What is this 20%?" I'm like, "What?" And like I don't care if somebody next to me doesn't tip. I really don't care.
Yeah.
I asked the server, I said, why is this 20% on here? And she said, well, for six or more. I said, I thought it was eight or
That's what I
more.
was gonna say.
Yes. And she said, no, it's six or more. I was like, can you show me like where it says that? And she's like, what? Like she was getting mad at me for asking. I was like, just show me where it says. Like, I'll pay it. Like, we'll pay it. Just show me where it
Yeah.
says six or more. They would not show me the menu. They would not grab it to the point where I was talking to the manager and telling him, like, these girls do not have the money to pay for this 20% tip. Like, they
Yeah.
do not. And I ended up paying her a good. amount of tip for the meal because she was like, I'm not gonna like I remember her saying like, I'm not gonna get paid tonight now or something like that. I was like, I looked at the survey, I said, this is or I looked at the manager, I said, that is your responsibility. This is on
Hmm.
you. Like
Right.
this is your establishment. You're the manager. You need to be fighting for fair wages for your employees. Um, and so yeah, to answer your question, no, it's definitely not keeping up
Hmm.
whatsoever. And I like in my district specifically, we do not need more small businesses. We do not need more fast food. We do not need more restaurants. We need economic development with sustainable salaries,
Yeah.
basically. We need to bring in, like in my county specifically, aviation, medical technologies, logistics, and be bringing in a lot more trades as well. This is a lot of there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who are wanting apprenticeships and trades in this district and needing them as well and needing those opportunities. And many, like many of the commissioners are like, we need to get another Chick-fil-A in here. It's like, no, we do not need another Chick-fil-A. Like, we want these kids who are working at Chick-fil-A to build skills to come back to our county and work in aviation because
Yeah.
they built that discipline in fast food industry. Fast food was never meant to be a sustainable career, a long-term
Hmm.
career. Um, but it is still robbing somebody to not
Absolutely.
pay them their wages just because they make more than their
Right. And I think that's the
hourly
tough thing
rate.
when it comes to wages, people will automatically, like I mentioned, minimum wage. The left will always be like, "Oh, we need to raise minimum wage." And it's like, "Okay, that can work in specific scenarios, but we don't even have to play these imaginary things. Like we can look at Washington, Seattle, Costco, whatever it is. If the wages go up, generally that's a good idea. But at some point, people are
Hmm.
going to get priced out. So you can look at the other countries that have no minimum wage, but they have a bunch of unions. So depending on what industry you're in, you have collective bargaining. And then at that point, the people have a voice because what's happening is you have the worker has no voice. The small business is just trying to survive, and they're getting squeezed by I want to say Cisco or whatever apparatus is providing them
Hmm.
with all their goods, and just to compete, they got to screw somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's a very tough conversation to open with, and
Hmm.
generally you have to agree on what the problem is. And the problem is the average American's not getting paid. So there's multiple solutions, but we usually don't get to the solution portion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And I I really hope we can see a day where we bring a lot more of our goods and manufacturing brought back to American soil. And that, yeah, like that's going to be a lot more people obviously working in factories and things like that. But why I don't think we need to be, I don't like dependency
Well,
on
and
other
this is
countries
where people that
for our
support
food.
tariffs, I'm going to give you a scenario it works. Tariffs in 10, 15 years are going to be put on or a small percentage. We're going to incentivize building. We're going to do this and we can bring jobs back. Now, the
Hmm.
way things may have been implemented, depending on who you voted for, it may not have worked out for the average American. So,
Hmm.
the discussion is what are the jobs we're looking for? How do we bring them back? And how do we make sure that the middle class is the ones we're supporting? How do you get that message to your people that just want to fight either the other side?
As far as like bringing jobs back to America.
Yeah, I think that's a very, it seems like it should be every American wants that.
Hmm.
But somehow we want the government to put on tariffs, but not to do any subsidies or infrastructure stuff. It's a tough conversation to have.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, that conversation rarely comes up. Has not came up on my campaign generally at all. Um, it's probably because I've kept my platform pretty center of the aisle.
Okay.
Like I am conservative. I have no problem saying I'm a Republican and that I'm running as a Republican, but I'm not really trying to play much party politics or anything
Yeah.
like that to divide my voting base
Right.
whatsoever. because I want to represent everyone in my
Hmm.
district. But I do, we do need to bring jobs back to Americans. We have outsourced a lot, even clothes and
Hmm.
things like that. That has hurt small American businesses and made them small American businesses
Right.
because we've outsourced so much of it, and they have to fight so hard because they do have to import a lot of their goods and things
Yeah.
like that to even make a t-shirt. Like they're probably importing it from somewhere overseas to sew it here in the States and write made in America. But the textile itself is not from America. They're still importing it, and then they have to pay even more, or they have to charge even more for
Right.
it because it's made in America. So they have to pay the fair rate wages and things like that here. And we're, I really do not like buying anything from China because they do
Mhm.
not have any labor laws there. Almost everything I buy is made in China. So it's almost impossible to find anything for my son not made in China. Any toy is
Ah.
going to be made in China.
Yes, I'd
And
say
the quality,
if you go towards the minimalist community, there's not a lot of stuff to buy in general.
no, no.
And then a lot of it will be wooden. And if
Yep,
you're looking for 100% cotton nowadays, you can afford to buy your kid like three shirts, and
yep.
then we'll have
Made
to
in
just
China
keep
still. It's
we'll have to
still
keep
made in
washing
China.
those.
Yep.
When it comes to bringing back industry, I think it's a big thing. I'm not going to hammer Bernie. When you bring a big factory into a town, that can make the town. But unfortunately, it's usually a big company, and you've given them lots of subsidies. It's more that we're going to leave Walmart alone too. They're not sponsoring this anyways. Um, but the small business, the American dream, the entrepreneurship is so fleeting. We do have still the most amount of startups, but we don't have the small businesses anymore because they have to pay for insurance. The taxes are so high on small businesses. All those, it's just the barrier to entry is so high.
Hmm.
How do you have policies in mind? Do you have other states that have been doing a really good job? What do you look at for that stuff?
Yeah, I I would definitely say, especially with a lot of red tape and things that we impose on small businesses or any business,
Yeah.
like for example, healthcare. Now, I'm not gonna go as radical as, like government healthcare and things like
Yeah.
that, but um, we have put a responsibility on businesses to provide healthcare. This should never be a business's duty to provide an American citizen healthcare. Um, because, for example, our healthcare through my husband's work is for all three of us about $700 a month.
Mhm.
His employer is paying roughly $2,400 a month.
On top of
Now,
that,
on top of that,
oh no.
so yes, yes.
Do you have at least you have good coverage?
Yeah, it's really great coverage. It's a
Oh,
great
okay.
plan. But that, I mean, we see that those pricing, and the only time we really don't see that is in government jobs. The
Mhm.
government takes care of their employees, of course. Um,
Which is wild that the government could even fathom giving themselves something better than the average American. The fact that any of those things passed, I was like, Excuse me?
mm,
What?"
yeah, yeah. So I think that putting that responsibility on a business, like that's just one of multiple things that they have to pay, but we should be providing a lot more incentives for companies to bring their manufacturing back to the United States, um, even if it's big companies.
Mhm.
How many businesses are or how many, we're going to have a lot more exports if that's the case. And right now we're importing so much stuff, and American made products are amazing. Like
Yeah.
anything made in America is of the highest of quality because we have so much pride in the things that we create here in America. And anything else over that we import is just cheap, cheap,
Mhm.
fast fashion, cheap food, um, and just poor quality, honestly, because we've become such a consumeristic society that businesses are doing whatever they can to like keep up with it
So
by
how do you argue? So you're in office, day one, you get a call. Hey, we got lunch. Can you come? We just have a couple of friends that want to talk to you about a couple importing rules and regulations we want to change. How are you able to stand your ground where so many other politicians just frankly were not able to? Because if we had the same rules and regulations for the products that we have here, the stuff just couldn't come in. So it would not be a factor of we need to bring it back. It's no, it can't even come in. So like
Mhm.
how do we make it so that stuff happens? I asked two questions. I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're good. Um, so I really, and I know probably every politician has been on a podcast or recording saying this. Um, I want to make it my mission to represent the people and not lobbyists, not corporations, not tech, not pharma. I'm very rooted and grounded in my community, in my family, and ultimately, like my son is the reason I'm
Mhm.
running for office because um, I was concerned about my generation's future
Yeah.
in college. Kind of like was on the Greta Thunberg train of like, what's the point of going to school if like there's no future to
Which
look forward to?
Gr
Um,
which fantastic for her, but shame on anybody that just rode on her coattails, either
hmm
positive or negative. Like
Yeah,
she
yeah,
she was and still is a kid. Like
yeah,
let's let her
yeah.
have her thoughts,
And
but
I'm not so much like end of the world, like climate change is gonna, we're not gonna have a world. It's gonna be burned up. Like I think I believe the only way that's gonna happen is by Jesus Christ, returning to Earth. And so I don't, I am just concerned about the character of our communities and
Mhm.
what we're preserving. If we're gonna be prioritizing water for AI and data centers over people, that is not the kind of future I want my child
Mhm.
to have. I don't I I'm scared
Yeah.
ultimately for that direction of where things are going right now, and it's like at all costs, and we do have to lead in this technology as a nation on a global level because we do have enemies. We do have people that hate America and want death to America, and if we
I
have
would love to communicate more on that sentence, but I'll let you finish. I'll let
yes,
you finish.
yes. So I really, I do not believe, I'm not getting into politics. I'm not running for Congress to make a career out of Congress. I believe in term limits. I do not
Mhm.
think the longer that someone is up there, the more disconnected they become from the people that they are supposed
Yeah.
to be represented. And that's a problem because I mean, we all know they are representing the lobbyists at this
Yeah.
point. They are representing the corporations. They are representing pharmaceuticals, big um, tech, and government and stuff like that. So it's very clear. It's in our
Mhm.
faces, like,
Yeah.
and especially for the ones that have been up there for over a decade. It's like, what are you? You're telling us to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps when you don't even know what it's like you do 30 years ago.
Sir, you don't put your shoes on yourself in the morning.
You
Come
don't
on.
even put your shoes on yourself.
You don't know what
Um,
you don't know what a glass of milk or a gallon of milk costs. You don't know
hmm
anything.
Yep, yep. So I am grateful to be running in the age of technology because I do expect things like this to be used to hold me accountable, and I wholeheartedly hope that if I'm given trusted with
Yeah.
this short term. It's a short term, 5 months of being in office,
Yeah.
and like I don't know what my political career looks like this by any means. Looks like after this by any means, but I do know that I'm gonna go up there to fight for the people.
Hmm.
And when it comes to I we we are not cattle.
Hmm.
We deserve to be treated like humans, and regardless of the job that we work, the janitor is the most important person at a company, and he should be treated with just as much dignity and respect as a CEO because he's keeping that place clean. He
Yeah.
is making sure that when anybody, any investor walks in there, that they have a good first impression of that
Hmm.
business. And so that business would fall apart without a good janitor doing their job. And so I really do think in terms of corporations and businesses bringing back labor or bringing back production
Yeah.
here that we're going to see a better quality of life for there's going to be a extreme boom in jobs if that were to happen
Yeah.
5, 10 years down the road. I mean, my grandmother worked canning goods for most of her career. She got an amazing pension and retired from that. Like, no, it's not anybody's dream job, but she was able to come home after work, cook a meal for her kids,
Right.
wake up, take her kids to school. Like, we have become so focused on like almost like an influencer. Like I have to be famous. My generation especially, like I have to have a platform. I have to have a brand. I have to people have to know my name. That like we've forgotten that it's okay to like have a mediocre job and have a strong family and have a strong quality of life and a good work-life balance, and not be focused on climbing a career ladder and achieving the most in life.
All right.
Which I,
I'm gonna hit on a couple points, but I'm gonna do one at a time so we can address them.
okay, okay.
So the Death to America chant, when translated, was Death to Americans Politics, and that was when the CIA, the
Mm,
MI6 and the CIA overthrew the democratically elected president of Iran because they were nationalizing the oil, and England said, "Hey, we like that stuff."
mm-hmm.
And their president it was not assisting in Americans, mostly Europe's endeavors.
Okay.
So they were not thrilled with us cooing their government and bringing in a new person. That has since led to the person we put in power, and then that person got overthrown, and then we got the Ayatollah, and then now we kind of see where we are now. Let's
Mm-hmm.
try another regime change. Two times, let's give it a shot. Um, would you agree that most people don't like Americans' politics, or do you think they just don't like Americans?
Um, that's going to depend on where you are geographically, I think. Um, definitely if you, I think if someone is in the Middle East, it's both. We've bombed them quite a bit now in many countries on um, for Israel, essentially, because they are threatened, which I do genuinely believe that the people of Israel do have fear. They live a very liberal, um, Israel is very liberated compared to the rest of the where the Middle East is now in terms of um, being able to be gay there. They let women like women are not required to
Yeah.
have coverings, like just things like that. Women have rights there. They're able to walk around and speak and be and serve in government and things like that. Um, and so,
But I will push back and I will say Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan had that as well.
had that at one point. Yes, as
before
well
we
as
went and bombed
Lebanon,
them.
as well as Lebanon used to be one of the most thriving Christian
Correct.
places that welcomed everybody. And yes, the bombings there have a huge, huge part to play in that as
Yeah.
well. There,
I would agree
Islam.
it's not as simple as that, but we have
Hmm.
attempted 70 different regime changes, and only two
Yes.
of them have been successful, Japan and Germany. So I think we should try a different
Hmm.
technique, but
Yes. So
going off on different topics. I'll let you finish.
yeah, the regime changes are a big issue, but the they do not have separation of church and state in a lot of these places. And the Islamic regime, the IRGC, is nobody's friend, essentially. There is a anybody who fully requires a woman to be covered, cuts off her finger, cuts out her eye for speaking out in public or reading a book, does not allow women to read. There's a serious civil rights issue there. And I've spoken to a lot of Iranians that have fled from there.
Mhm.
And yes, American politics have played a part in it, but there there is a strong, strong religious um religious fuel for them that is like even spread to Sudan
Mhm.
and South Africa or in Africa as well. Like they are massacring Christians left and right there. Um, and so with that, I hope the Middle East gets back to a thriving place, but that was a period of time as
Mhm.
well. It's been war there since the beginning of time, essentially, and a lot of it has to do with oil. And I honestly believe a lot of this is almost like a checkmate for Trump in the sense of like he's like 5 steps ahead of everybody else because the US is one of the largest producers of oil, but the Strait of Hormuz is the largest export of it. And that's that's going to have a lot. We've heard ceasefires left and right. There is no ceasefire. That is not going to stop. That's been going on for years and years and years. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see here within the next couple years a lot more export of our oil um, being done because that war is not going to let up. And I think parts of it have to do with nuclear energy. I don't I think that with the nuclear energy, I I don't necessarily think it's like they need it to have a thriving civilization there. I think they need to be like stop being bombed. I think that is a great place to start. Like
That's a
we need to
we
stop
agree.
we need to stop bombing people because that is just the most cruel thing we can be doing to anybody ever. It is the most inhumane act to bomb somebody else.
So
You,
on the Hormuz, I think it only 20% of the world's oil goes through there, even though any percentage change is going to make the price go up because there's less moving. But you mentioned
mm-hmm,
that US is going to become a more of an exporter.
mm-hmm,
There is a happy number of where the price of oil, where American companies can be pumping out an exorbitant amount of oil. If it goes too high, if it goes too low, not too good. I worked for, I actually dug pipeline for 5 years. So listening to the guys actually making the money, I was like, oh, this is a very different game. Um,
mm-hmm.
but the average American is not benefiting from the American oil industry as far as we're not getting phenomenal pricing. They're not
Yeah.
providing an exorbitant amount of taxes. It's
Hmm.
helping some shareholders and it's helping the oil fields. And yes, there are towns built around those oil fields, 100%. But as I was building a pipeline, it was maybe 2,000 guys going across the country. I don't see the increase in oil really helping the American people. Now in Sweden, and now I can't remember Sweden or Norway, they have a bunch of oil, but they nationalized it. So they have the equivalent to if America had it was like $80 trillion worth of oil available per person. Like there's just it's a large bank, it's a large fund, but
Hmm.
since it's not nationalized, it doesn't really help us because our industries in America are keeping a small amount of people wealthy. That's the only pushback I have because when it comes back to like Banana Republic, when it comes back to Iran, all these positive actions that the American military makes
Hmm.
is not necessarily helping the American people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not. And that's Trump said on an interview that it needs to be investigated because oil shouldn't, or gas should not be continuing to go up right now. Like with everything that's been happening,
Yeah.
and that's a problem that why isn't Congress looking into that?
Hmm.
The only thing I can think of is because there's some sort of
There's a couple
checkpoint.
lobbyists.
Somebody's
There's a couple lobbyists involved.
maybe a couple. And that's really what Congress is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And instead, we just see them up there arguing all the time. I mean, like Thomas Massey introduced a bill to essentially defund Israel,
Yeah.
and it got voted down. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of good bills just get shut down because people, not enough
Well,
people were reached to work together to pass it. And these bills are so
I
heavy
think
nowadays
yeah. I think the
that,
whole Israel thing would give us another 3 or 4 hours, but do you know who Nick Matua is?
mm-mm,
He was a submarine Navy submarine guy for 12
mm-hmm,
and for the last 12 years he's been more or less pro-Israel. He's not Jewish.
okay,
He just believes these are the facts and he's debated people for like the last 4 or 5 years and he's done phenomenal. I have not seen him lose a single debate and it's been absolutely wild. Like a pro-Palestinian, like I was there. This guy was from Palestine when things were not going well. I think he's in like his 40s or 50s or something like that. And he did not win against Nick. And it was just I think there's emotions that go into things,
mm-hmm.
and it's very tough when it's labeled as we're gonna leave the support or Israel bad, Israel good. I think there's so many nuances when we talk about these conversations. Um, but I think there's the biggest issues would be the economic stress that there is on the American people. Now, obviously, we can bring jobs back, but when it comes to taxes, the way you see taxes, do you feel it is its job to incentivize something, or is it to disincentivize something, or how do you see them best used?
For corporations or for like
Corporations,
us
sales
paying
tax,
taxes,
just taxes in general. Like, what is your stance on those?
less of
Okay.
them, less taxes for everyday Americans.
Okay.
I I've done a lot of deep diving into federal income tax, and I just cannot wrap my head around how at this point it's constitutional, um, and why we are
Yeah.
still paying a federal income tax, and what's it going like? Where is this going?
Yeah.
Why there's not much representation at that at this level
Yeah.
right now. We had Congress shut down for probably what, a total of like 4 months in the past year
Yeah.
because they can't. do their job and work together to protect the American people. Um, so that's a big aspect. I think for sales tax, state taxes, I think that's the responsibility of states. If they decide that that's how they want to run their states, then
Okay.
that's how they want to run their states. And it's their responsibility to make those areas more affordable for their people. We've seen a lot of local businesses start to, or sorry, a lot of local counties start to come down on property taxes because of data centers being
Yeah.
placed in their counties. They've been able to eliminate and bring down property taxes. Now, Florida did it without any data centers. So I don't necessarily think it's required to put a data center in
Yeah.
your county to bring down property taxes, but I think for these poorly ran counties that are extremely in debt because of poor budgeting and poor spending, that they're desperate to do whatever they can to bring in the money for themselves
Mhm.
and their counties. But yeah, I would definitely like to see, like in my state, less sales tax. I went to school in Oregon. They don't have sales tax up there. Most beautiful roads ever. They have the most beautiful roads in Oregon. I think they just start at one end, they go all the way up, and then they just start over. And just keep repaving them and filling potholes. And
Yeah.
there's no sales tax there. Washington doesn't have um I don't think they have income tax.
Someone
No.
just added it in and people are furious. I think it was Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so these states are making it happen. And so that's the beauty of living in America. We can choose where we live, and we also have the opportunity to run for office and
So,
implement
so,
these ideas.
so federally, what would you want the government to be taking care of federally? So it would be our military. It would be what else? Would it be Medicare and Medicaid, or
Mm.
would you push that onto the states?
Um, I'm really I am not
I got a solution for healthcare, but you
yeah,
you give me your
my view on healthcare is that we need both a private and public um, healthcare. We need to have every every single person, 0 to 100 plus, needs to have basic health care to be
Mhm.
able to go to a doctor, preventative health care, um, as well as wellness. We need to be
Yeah.
focused more on wellness rather than illness. And we would see a much bigger drop in just chronic illness here in the
Mhm.
States. Um, and still leaving a free market for private sector. If somebody wants to have faster service, if they want
Yeah.
to go to a specialist that they want to see and not go to the state or the federally provided one,
Yeah.
okay. But at this point, we
So
have,
I can give you 99% private industry. The way Sweden does it is they say, hey, this is going to be all private. The offices, I think it's like 98.2%, whatever it is.
mhm,
But what they do is they put specific guardrails. So similar to Obamacare, everybody has to have insurance, but you get put into an insurance group. Nobody gets denied. You have certain premiums that you can't reach. Everyone has a basic level that is available. And for each company, if you end up getting just like we'll say 1,000 people that have cancer, it's not going super well. The government will then come in and step in and look at those metrics. But we have these arguments in the way of like, oh, this could never happen or this could never happen. But there's so many successful countries that are able to facilitate these methods, and then we have.
mhm,
It's not Scandinavia, it's a different Asian country, but what they do is they give you, it's like an HSA account. They give you money and then you can go shop around. So all
mhm,
these things that the Republicans and the Democrats put forward, they do work, not even in theory, but realistically, they do work. But something is happening where when the American system puts it in place, it doesn't work. And the only thing that I can to keep going back is there is to get into office, you have to get paid. You like
Mm.
your path to the office is going to be
$220,000 isn't enough.
right. Well, so you have to get paid, but also for you to get into office, it's going to cost you millions of dollars. And then whoever's paying you that millions of dollars is going to have your ear. So if we're going to fix anything, it's going to have to start with that in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's not going to get fixed anytime soon, considering they just like
Hawaii's pretty
decreased
close.
limitations on it. But
Hawaii's pretty close. I think they're doing a pretty good job. Montana, it's not the voting thing, but how do you? Because without that, I mean, the people with the money have the power. How do we get
they
them?
do. How do we get them? They are the ones pulling the strings on many, almost all politicians, at least the ones we hear about.
Right,
Because there are 435 people up there, and we probably hear about 20 to
right.
40 maybe on a
I
regular
love that
basis.
number because it's not that many. It's not
It's
that many.
not for how many people are here. Like we probably should increase that number a little bit more. Um,
I do have a solution for you, and maybe in like 3 to 5 months we'll be able to roll it out. But hear me
mhm.
out. Poke all the holes you have in it.
Okay, okay.
So we have at the basic level just like a small city. And when you want to go to a meeting, it's on Wednesday from like 4 to 6. So like 50 people show up to say, I don't want this data center. I don't want these flock cameras. All the things on the agenda, you just yell boo. And whoever you did vote for is like, I'm here for 4 years. You can say whatever you want. I don't have to respond.
Mhm.
Now, the polling application that I'm going to have is whatever is on the agenda, it's going to be sent out to every single person that it can vote in that city. We'll get into the verification in a moment. But if you can go to your city council members and say, hey, we have 7,000 people in this city that can vote, 6,000 of them said they want this. If you want to have be close to being able to run again, or if you want to vote them out of office and you need enough signatures, oh, we got all of them. We can get
Mhm.
everybody down here, or we send out 100 people. We'll be able to get those signatures.
Mhm.
So as soon as the people's vote actually matters, then we can get things to change. And when it's the city, cool, we got the city. Now we're going to expand to the county. Everybody in that county gets the alert. Here's what's on the referendum. Here's whatever the thing is. And now we're getting changed because the people that are in office are going to have to listen every time,
Yeah.
not every just 4 years because they got
Mhm.
into office. But the verification is my favorite part about it because I don't want any company buying the business, buying the product. So the only thing it's going to be like when you have to sign, I think it's for a referendum or something to get on. You just need a license and then like a verification, like someone not to notarize it, but to say where you live.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get that information that's logged in, but you don't save anything other than this person lives here. So
Mhm. Mhm.
we're not selling anybody's data. It
Yeah.
is worthless at that point. But I feel like that's the only way to get things done because no one's worried about the average American anymore. Like just the voice is not being heard.
I'm an average
I
American running for
appreciate
office.
that.
Who cares about average Americans? I really do. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, I'm just like you, I promise.
Yeah.
Like, especially when I'm all dressed up, I'm like, this is not me all the time whatsoever. Before this, I was in a messy bun all the time. Um, but I think that's great, especially at the local level. It's so much of what we need. Honestly, I during this whole process, just going to Board of Commissioners meetings, we're seeing them so packed out for because of data centers and flock cameras, especially in Georgia. Before that, no. I mean,
Right.
maybe for some environmental thing here and there. Um, but so few people go to these development meetings. And even when they do voice their concerns to the elected officials, what we're seeing right now with data centers, especially, that decision's already been made before they even show up. And if six people on a board of commissioners cannot define a data center, they're not looking to define a data center. Like,
Yeah,
everyone has access to Google. Anybody can define a data center if they choose to look it up and do so.
right.
And that's kind of their job, to protect their community. And yeah, so I do believe, especially at that local and state level, there needs to be a some sort of system to have direct voter engagement and say on what is going up, what is being developed, because these developers are taking advantage of everyday Americans. Many commissioners start as everyday Americans, and some commissioners, part-time commissioners, end up with billions of dollars, becoming billionaires. And it's like, how did that happen?
We could fix it by every politician just having to live stream what's going on. I
Well,
think
the
that
thing
would
is,
be
people still aren't going to
fantastic.
show up because, also, something I've learned on this political journey, I don't do politics. Oh, I
Yeah,
don't do politics. Oh, sorry, I don't do politics. And it's like, so why are you complaining about this development down the street? Because
yeah,
that's politics. It's voting
yes.
on something. It's democracy. It's having a say. You get to do that. It's like, we do not live in a communist state where you don't have a say. You have a direct chance to like influence your community, and you're choosing to, and I get it. Like, people choose to stay out of it because we can't talk about it over dinner at a
Mhm.
family dinner because somebody
I'm gonna
or
fix that too, as long with the polling thing. I'm working on that too.
yes, yes. Truthfully, I see a big solution getting people our age and younger into office. Our
Mm,
founding fathers were not grandpas dying on a seat. Like, I'm
yes,
sorry, that was not meant to be sensitive to the past congressmen who have passed away this past year.
right.
Um, and it's we need to have, especially like younger moms, younger dads, getting in there
Mm,
because they are the everyday American, and they are not going, hopefully, to bend their knee to developers, because hopefully they are getting in there and running because they're unhappy with the condition of their community, their state, their
yeah.
country. And I think if people really did their research, really looked into candidates, looked into their education. AOC, she's not just a bartender. She was never just a bartender. She was never just a bartender,
We're
okay?
we're we're throwing in shade late in the game.
I mean, she was, I I wouldn't be surprised if she was approached to run, not encouraged by her friends and her customers, but in a sense, I think a lot of the politicians we see, even the younger ones, the more radical ones, the most divisive ones, the ones that always say Republicans this, Democrats that, are trained. They are trained. So many people have told me, "Oh, you should go to candidate training." I'm like, "Why?" Like, that's I'm
Yeah.
like I'm like, I'm just I'm just somebody in the community that believes that they're not working for us anymore. And I think, and there's
Well,
the
I'd
bar for
say.
entry is paying a qualification fee and being of age.
Mhm,
That's it. People are
yeah,
like, "What's your qualifications?" I mean, I have my qualifications in terms of being a mom in the community, starting a business, being an entrepreneur, wanting to protect my community. I could rattle off things here and there, but you got to pay the money and be 25.
yeah.
That's the qualifications. There, I'm qualified. Like,
You did it.
I'm on the that's the qualifications. And I think the most important thing is like somebody who's willing to fight. Like, I I'm at a point where I'm so fed up. Like, no, I'm not the most legalistic person or policy groomed person. Like, that's something I'll definitely grow into, as it's going to be my full-time job and be something I'm surrounded by 24/7. I'm very quick on my feet in learning that and speaking with educated people like yourself to get that American perspective, everyday American perspective of people who are even more educated than I am in certain aspects, because
Mhm.
that's also what Congress needs to be doing, is
Yes.
bringing in experts, because they're not experts in almost all the committees that they sit on. Like, they're just assigned to these committees by leadership. Some people
Yeah.
don't even understand that. Like, I've talked to people who have no idea how it works. Like, they're just placed on a committee based on their influence or maybe something they're passionate about. It's not because they're the most, and sometimes education, yes, qualifications in that area, but not always. Like,
Hmm.
our congressman, David Scott, was on a committee for agriculture. This man never had a farm. Like, why is he sitting? And it's where you get placed
Yeah.
essentially. And so I think that's a big responsibility for them to bring in experts that are talking about these impacts on the American people, on our environment, on our economy, and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, to give you some more time to your night, I know you just put your son down. The last two questions that I like to ask everybody is, what's your definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what is health to you?
That's a really great question. For my definition of health is vitality and being able to heal yourself, essentially. Um, Being able to take care of yourself through mindset, through physical activity, through what you consume, not just in your mouth, but
Hmm.
what you listen to, who you surround yourself with. It's a full body, like mind, body, spirit.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then
And
what's something from your life that you think people listening to the podcast will be able to take away as a positive?
a positive. So my son, honestly,
Okay.
he has just absolutely transformed everything that I am. And I was very focused on a career before I had him. I wanted to climb that career ladder and be a CEO and have a successful business. And as soon as he was born, is like, wow, everything changed. Like, his future is my responsibility. And everything that I am doing today is to hopefully impact a positive future for him
Hmm.
tomorrow.
Awesome. I love that. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.